The hospital ship Healing Dawn floated quietly through the darkness of space. It was a large ship, painted white with blue stripes. On every side of the ship, there was a bright blue crescent symbol. This symbol meant one thing to every species in the galaxy. This is a medical ship. It carries no weapons. It helps the sick and the wounded. Do not attack. Captain Park Gina stood on the bridge, looking out at the stars. She was a small woman with short black hair and tired eyes. She had not slept properly in 3 weeks. None of her crew had. There were too many patients, too many wounded refugees, too many people who needed help. The war between the Veth hegemony and the Relon colonies had been going on for 2 years. The Veth were winning. They were a proud species, tall and strong, with gray skin and forearms. They believed they were superior to all other races. The Relon were smaller, weaker, and their colonies were falling one by one. The Healing Dawn had come to help. That was what human medical ships did. They went where there was suffering, and they tried to make it less. They did not care about politics or borders. They only cared about saving lives. "Captain," said Lieutenant Yoon Mira from her station. She was young, barely 25, with a round face and quick eyes. "We have 3 more refugee ships approaching. They are asking for medical assistance." Gina nodded slowly. "How many wounded?" "They say about 200. Mostly burns and radiation sickness. 200 more." The Healing Dawn already had over 400 patients on board. The medical staff was exhausted. But Gina did not hesitate. "Tell them to dock at Base 7. We will take them all." Down in the main medical bay, Chief Medical Officer Kang Do-yun was working on a young Relon girl. She was only 8 years old, and half of her body was covered in burns. Her mother stood nearby, holding her other daughter, watching with fear in her eyes. Do-hyun was a tall man with gentle hands and a calm voice. He had been a doctor for 20 years, and he had seen many terrible things. But he never got used to seeing children suffer. It always broke something inside him. "You are doing very well," he said to the girl in a soft voice. "The pain will stop soon. I promise." The girl looked up at him with large, wet eyes. She did not understand his language, but she understood his kindness. She stopped crying. Nurse Lihana brought more medicine. She was a quiet woman who rarely spoke, but she worked harder than anyone else on the ship. "Doctor, we are running low on burn treatment supplies." "I know," Do-yun said. "We will manage. We always do." Back on the bridge, Mira suddenly sat up straight. Her face went pale. "Captain, I am detecting a ship coming out of the asteroid field." Gina turned. "What kind of ship?" Mira's hands moved quickly over her controls. It is a Veth cruiser, Captain. A military vessel." The bridge went silent. Everyone stopped what they were doing. A Veth warship should not be here. This was the neutral zone. And more importantly, the Healing Dawn was a protected medical vessel. Its status had been confirmed by the Veth government 3 times. "Open a channel," Gina said. Her voice was calm, but her heart was beating fast. "Remind them of our protected status." Myra sent the message. They waited. 1 minute. 2 minutes. The Veth cruiser came closer. "They are not responding, Captain," Myra said. Gina watched the screen. The Veth ship was large and ugly, covered in weapons. It moved toward them like a predator approaching wounded prey. "Send the message again," Gina ordered. "On all frequencies. Make sure they understand. We are a medical ship. We carry no weapons. We are treating civilian refugees." Myra sent the message again. Still no response. And then the first plasma bolt hit. The Healing Dawn shook violently. Gina was thrown against her console. Alarms started screaming. Red emergency lights filled the bridge. "They're firing on us," Myra shouted. "They are actually firing on us." Gina could not believe it. In all of human history, no one had ever attacked a hospital ship. It was the most basic rule of civilized warfare. You did not attack those who healed the wounded. You did not attack the helpless. "All hands," Gina shouted into the ship's communication system. "This is the captain. We are under attack. Move all patients to the central core. All medical staff, protect your patients. This is not a drill." Another blast hit the ship. This one was stronger. Gina heard metal screaming, walls breaking, people crying out in fear. In the medical bay, Do-hyun grabbed the young Relon girl and held her close. "Everyone, move!" he shouted. "Get to the center of the ship, now." Nurse Hana was already moving, pushing beds, carrying children, helping the wounded walk. The whole bay was chaos. People were screaming. The lights were flickering. Smoke was filling the air. "Doctor!" Hana shouted. "The ceiling!" Do-hyun looked up. A large crack was spreading across the ceiling above them. Metal was bending. He knew what was coming. He did not think. He simply acted. He threw himself over the Relon girl and her mother, covering them with his own body. The ceiling collapsed. On the bridge, Mira was crying as she watched the damage reports come in. "We have lost sections 4 through 7. Medical Bay 2 is gone. We have fires on decks 5, 6, and 8. Gina felt something cold spreading through her chest. Her ship, her crew, her patients, all of them, dying around her. "Launch the escape pods," she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Everyone who can move, get to the escape pods." The Veth cruiser fired again. And again. It did not stop. It kept shooting at the broken, burning hospital ship as if it were an enemy warship. Gina did not understand. She would never understand. They were healers. They were helping people. Why would anyone do this? The last thing she saw before the explosion threw her across the bridge was the image of her crew running, carrying patients, trying to save as many lives as they could. Even now, even in death, they were still trying to help others. Then everything went dark. The healing dawn broke apart in the cold emptiness of space. Escape pods scattered in all directions. Some made it out. Most did not. When the Veth cruiser finally stopped firing and flew away, it left behind only wreckage, bodies, and silence. The attack lasted 11 minutes. 340 crew members and 412 patients had been on board. Only 67 survived. And somewhere, far away, Earth was about to receive a message that would change everything. The message arrived at Fleet Station Prometheus at 0347 hours, Earth Standard Time. Admiral Shin Tae-ho was sleeping in his quarters when his personal communicator started beeping. He was a man of 62 years, with gray hair and deep lines on his face. He had served in the fleet for 40 years. He had seen battles, lost friends, and made difficult decisions. He thought he had seen everything. He was wrong. He walked into the command center still putting on his uniform jacket. The room was filled with officers, all of them staring at the main screen with pale faces. No one was speaking. The silence was so heavy that Tae-ho could hear his own heartbeat. "What happened?" he asked. Commander Bae Soo-jin turned to look at him. She was his communications officer, a young woman who was usually cheerful and full of energy. Now her eyes were red and her hands were shaking. "Sir," she said. Her voice cracked. "The healing dawn." She could not finish. She simply pointed at the screen. Tae-ho watched. The recording was broken and full of static, but he could see enough. He saw the hospital ship floating peacefully. He saw the Veth cruiser approaching. He saw the first plasma bolt hit the white hull. He saw the ship break apart, section by section. He saw escape pods launching, but not enough of them. He saw fire and debris and bodies floating in space. And then he saw the final image before the recording ended. Dr. Kang Do-yoon, a man Taiho had met once at a medical conference, throwing himself over a Raylon woman and child, trying to protect them with his own body as the ceiling fell. The room was completely silent. Taiho did not move for a long time. He just stood there, staring at the frozen image. His hands did not shake. His face did not change. But something inside him went very cold. "How many survivors?" he finally asked. 67, sir," said Sujin. "A merchant ship found them 2 hours ago. They are being transported to Station Kalima for medical treatment. And the rest? 752 dead, sir. Crew and patients. 752. The number hit Taiho like a physical blow. Doctors, nurses, refugees, children, all of them gone. "What are the vets saying?" he asked. Lieutenant No Ji-won, the intelligence officer, stepped forward. He was a thin man with glasses and a nervous manner. "Sir, the VEF hegemony released a statement 1 hour ago. They claimed the Healing Dawn was transporting weapons to the Relon resistance. They say the attack was defensive." Taiho laughed. It was not a happy sound. Defensive? They attacked an unarmed hospital ship, killed 700 people, and they call it defensive. Yes, sir. Do they have any proof of these weapons? No, sir, none. Of course not. Because there were no weapons. The Healing Dawn carried medical supplies, nothing else. Every cargo container on that ship had been inspected before departure. Taiho had signed the inspection reports himself. The VEF were lying. Everyone knew they were lying. And they did not even care enough to make the lie believable. "Sir," said Sujin quietly, "what do we do now?" Taiho was silent for a long moment. He thought about the Healing Dawn. He thought about Captain Park Gina, a woman who had dedicated her life to helping others. He thought about the refugees, people who had already lost everything and came to humans for help because they believed humans would protect them. And he thought about what would happen if humanity did nothing. If they let this go. If they sent a formal complaint and asked for an investigation and waited for justice that would never come. He thought about every other species in the galaxy watching to see what humans would do, watching to see if human mercy meant human weakness. "Open a channel to Fleet Command," Taiho said. His voice was calm and steady. "Priority Alpha. Tell them we are invoking the Caduceus Doctrine." The room went completely still. Sujin's face turned white. "Sir, the Caduceus Doctrine has never been used. It is only theoretical, not anymore. Sir, with respect, the Caduceus Doctrine authorizes." "I know what it authorizes, Commander." Taiho looked at her. His eyes were hard. "I helped write it. The Caduceus Doctrine was created 50 years ago, when humanity first started sending hospital ships into space. It was designed to answer one simple question. What happens if someone attacks our healers? The answer was simple too. Total retaliation. Not war, not conquest, not occupation. Just pure, overwhelming force, designed to deliver one message to the entire galaxy. Attack our medical ships, and we will destroy everything you have. We will not stop until you understand. We will not negotiate. We will not show mercy. Because mercy is what the hospital ships offer. If you reject that mercy, you get the opposite." Sujin stared at her console. Her fingers were shaking. But she was a good officer. She did her duty. "Channel open, sir," she said. "Fleet Command is standing by." Taiho stepped forward to the main communication screen. The face of Grand Admiral Moonsung appeared. He was an old man, even older than Taiho, with a face like carved stone and eyes that had seen too much. "Shin," the Grand Admiral said, "I received the recordings. I know why you are calling." "Then you know what I am asking for." "I do." The Grand Admiral was silent for a moment. "The Council will need to vote, but I think I already know what they will decide." "How long?" 6 hours. "Maybe less." Taiho nodded. "I will begin preparations." The Grand Admiral looked at him through the screen. "Shin, are you sure about this? Once we start, we cannot stop. The galaxy will never see us the same way again." Taiho thought about Dr. Kang covering a child with his body. He thought about the nurses carrying patients to the escape pods. He thought about the Relon mother holding her daughter, trusting humans to protect them. "The galaxy needs to understand something," Taiho said. "Our kindness is not weakness. Our mercy is not permission. When we send a hospital ship, we are making a promise. We are saying, these people are under our protection. If someone breaks that promise, if someone attacks those under our protection, then they will learn what happens when humanity stops being kind." The Grand Admiral nodded slowly. "I will speak to the Council. You will have your answer soon." The screen went dark. Taiho turned to his officers. "Begin fleet mobilization. Contact every ship within range. I want a full battle group assembled within 48 hours." "Sir," said Ji-won, the intelligence officer, "the Veth have 200 warships in their home system. They have orbital defense platforms around every major planet. They have been fighting the Relon for 2 years. They are experienced." "Good," said Taiho. "Then they will understand exactly what they are facing when we arrive." He walked toward the door, then stopped. He turned back to look at the frozen image still on the main screen. Dr. Kang, protecting the innocent with his own body. 752 people, Taiho said quietly. "Remember that number. Make sure every member of this fleet remembers that number. That is why we are doing this." He left the command center. Behind him, his officers began to work. Messages went out to every corner of human space. Ships that had been sleeping for years began to wake up. Weapons that had never been used were prepared. Soldiers who had never seen real combat were told to get ready. Humanity was going to war. And this time, there would be no mercy. The call went out across human space, and the fleet began to gather. On Mars, in a deep underground hangar that most people did not know existed, the dreadnought Iron Requiem opened its eyes for the first time in 10 years. It was the largest warship humanity had ever built, a monster of metal and fire that stretched 2 kilometers from bow to stern. It had been put to sleep after the last war, kept ready for an emergency that everyone hoped would never come. Chief Engineer Beak Sora walked through the massive engine room, checking systems that had not been used in a decade. She was a small woman with oil-stained hands and a serious face. She had been assigned to the Iron Requiem for 15 years, keeping it maintained, keeping it ready, waiting. "How long until we can move?" asked Captain Yun Sung-ho through the communicator. He was the ship's commander, a large man with a thick beard and a voice like thunder. 12 hours, Sora replied. "Maybe 10 if I push the team." "Push them. We do not have much time." On the moon of Titan, the stealth carriers Ghost and Spectre were loading their bomber wings. These ships were secrets. They did not officially exist. Their crews had been selected for their ability to keep quiet, and their technology was decades ahead of anything the galaxy had seen. Commander Cha Yuri watched the bombers being loaded into the launch bays. She was the captain of the Ghost, a thin woman with short hair and cold eyes. She had joined the military after losing her brother in a pirate attack 15 years ago. She understood revenge. She understood the need to send a message. How many bombers? asked their second officer, a young man named Quan Tayuk. All of them, Yuri replied. Every single one. In the Kuiper Belt, at the edge of the solar system, 3 experimental cruisers received their orders. These ships had no names, only numbers. They were prototypes, testing new weapons and new technologies that the rest of the fleet would not see for another decade. The crews of these ships were volunteers. They knew the risks. They knew that their technology was untested in real combat. But when they heard what had happened to the Healing Dawn, not a single person asked to leave. And across dozens of systems, destroyers and frigates and battleships began to move. Some came from patrol routes. Some came from training exercises. Some came from deep space missions that were immediately cancelled. All of them came with the same purpose: to join the fleet gathering at the edge of Veth Space. Admiral Shin Taiho watched the fleet assemble from the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Flame. Every hour, more ships arrived. Every hour, his force grew stronger. By the end of the second day, he had over 600 warships under his command. Sir, said Commander Baisujin, who had transferred to his staff, the last ships have arrived. The fleet is complete. Taiho nodded slowly. What are the Veth doing? They are aware of our presence, sir. They have called back their patrol fleets and are concentrating their forces in the home system. Good. Let them gather. It will save us time. Meanwhile, on Fleet Station Kalama, Captain Park Gina woke up in a hospital bed. Her body was covered in bandages. Her left arm was in a cast. She could feel pain everywhere, a deep, burning pain that made her want to scream. But she did not scream. She had never been someone who screamed. A nurse appeared beside her bed. He was a young man with a kind face. Captain Park, please do not try to move. You were badly injured. My crew, Gina whispered. Her voice was rough, barely audible. My patients. The nurse looked away. He did not answer. Gina felt something cold spread through her chest. She already knew. She had known from the moment she woke up. But she needed to hear it. How many? She asked. 67 survivors, Captain. Including you. 67. Out of over 700. Gina closed her eyes. She did not cry. The tears would come later, she knew. Right now, she felt only emptiness. 2 days later, Admiral Shin Taiho came to see her. He entered her room alone, without guards or assistants. He was wearing his formal uniform, but his face looked tired. He sat down in a chair beside her bed and did not speak for a long time. You should be with your fleet, Gina finally said. I needed to see you first, Taiho replied. I needed you to know what we are doing. I saw the news. You invoked the Caduceus Doctrine. Yes, Gina looked at him. Her eyes were empty, hollow. Will it bring them back? No, Taiho said honestly. Nothing will bring them back. But it will make sure this never happens again. To anyone, the Veth will fight. I know. People will die. On both sides. I know that too. Gina was silent for a moment. She thought about Dr. Kang, who had worked beside her for 5 years. She thought about Nurse Lihana, who never spoke much but always knew exactly what to do. She thought about the Relon girl with the burns, and her mother, and all the other refugees who had trusted humans to protect them. I should be angry, she said. I should want revenge. But I just feel tired. So tired. Taiho reached out and touched her uninjured hand. That is normal. You went through something terrible. It will take time. Will it ever stop hurting? No, he said honestly. But it will hurt less. And one day, you will be able to remember them without feeling only pain. You will remember the good things too. Gina looked at him. Do what you need to do, Admiral. Make sure no one ever does this again. Taiho stood up. I will. He walked to the door, then stopped and turned back. "Captain Park, when this is over, we are going to build a memorial for every person who died on the Healing Dawn. Every crew member, every patient, every refugee. Their names will be remembered forever." Gina nodded. She did not trust herself to speak. The Admiral left. 3 hours later, the fleet began to move. Captain Jisu of the destroyer Crimson Tide stood on her bridge, watching the stars stretch into lines as her ship jumped to faster-than-light speed. Around her, hundreds of other ships did the same. "How long until we reach Veth space?" she asked. 14 hours, Captain," replied Lieutenant Han Minho, her tactical officer. 14 hours. Jisu thought about what was waiting for them. 200 Veth warships, orbital defense platforms, a species that had been fighting for 2 years and thought they knew what war looked like. They were about to learn that they knew nothing. On the Iron Requiem, Chief Engineer Beek Sora finished her final system check and reported to Captain Yan Sangho. "All weapons are ready, sir. All systems are operating at full power." "She is ready." Sangho smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Then, let us show the galaxy what humans can do when they stop being nice." The fleet flew through the darkness of space, silent and deadly, a sword aimed at the heart of the Veth hegemony. Behind them, the galaxy watched and waited. And the Veth had no idea what was coming. The Veth detected the human fleet 3 hours before it arrived. Supreme Commander Veth Drackle stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crushing Fist, and watched the sensor readings with growing concern. He was old for a Veth, nearly 90 years, and he had fought in 6 wars. He had never lost a battle. He had never felt fear. But the numbers on the screen made him uneasy. "How many ships?" he asked. "Over 600, Supreme Commander," replied his sensor officer. "They are coming from multiple directions. They will arrive in formation. 600 ships." Drackle had 200. The numbers were not in his favor, but numbers were not everything. The Veth had stronger shields. The Veth had more experience. The Veth were fighting in their home system, defending their own planets. And the humans were soft. Everyone knew this. The humans sent hospital ships to help their enemies. The humans cared about rules and laws and morality. The humans would hesitate. "Order all ships to defensive positions," Drackle said. "Activate the orbital defense platforms. We will meet them at the outer perimeter." His officers moved quickly, sending orders across the system. 200 warships formed the wall in space. 30 orbital platforms powered up their weapons. Fighters launched from carrier ships, filling the darkness with small, deadly shapes. Drackle felt confident. The humans were coming with more ships, yes. But the Veth were ready. The Veth were strong. The humans would learn that attacking the hegemony was a mistake. On the bridge of the Eternal Flame, Admiral Shin Taiho watched his fleet approach the Veth system. Every ship was in position. Every weapon was ready. Every crew member knew exactly what to do. "Admiral," said Commander Cho Yuna, his second-in-command. She was a tall woman with gray hair and a face that never showed emotion. "The Veth fleet is in defensive formation. They have activated their orbital platforms." "As expected," Taiho said. "Send the stealth carriers forward. Tell Commander Cha to begin the first phase." On the bridge of the Ghost, Commander Sha Yuri received the order. She smiled, a cold and dangerous smile. "Launch all bombers," she said. "Silent approach. Do not let them see you until it is too late." The bombers flew out of the carrier bays like shadows, invisible to normal sensors. They were painted black, designed to absorb all light and radiation. They made no sound, sent no signals, left no trace. They simply moved through the darkness, getting closer and closer to the Veth defensive line. The Veth did not see them coming. The first explosions hit the communication arrays. Supreme Commander Drackle watched in shock as 3 of his main communication stations disappeared in balls of fire. Suddenly, he could not contact half of his fleet. What happened? He demanded. Where did that attack come from? Unknown, Supreme Commander. We did not detect any enemy ships. More explosions. The shield generators on the orbital platforms began to fail, one after another. Fighters exploded without warning, hit by weapons they never saw. Draco felt something he had not felt in 50 years. Fear. Find those ships. He screamed. Find them and destroy them. But the bombers were already gone, flying back to their carriers, their mission complete. They had hit 20 targets in 3 minutes. The Veth defensive line was already broken. And then the main fleet arrived. The human warships came out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, a wave of metal and fire that filled the space in front of the Veth line. 600 ships against 200. But it was not just the numbers that mattered. It was what those ships did. The Iron Requiem fired first. Its main weapon, a plasma cannon that had never been used in combat, released a beam of pure energy that cut through 3 Veth cruisers like they were made of paper. The ships simply disappeared. All ships, attack, Admiral Taiho ordered. No mercy. No hesitation. The battle began. Captain Ojisu of the Crimson Tide led her destroyer wing against the left side of the Veth formation. Her tactical officer, Lieutenant Han Minho, was calling out targets. Enemy cruiser at 2 o'clock. 2 frigates behind it. Target the cruiser's engines, Jisoo ordered. Disable, do not destroy. We want them to watch. The Crimson Tide fired. Her shots were precise, surgical, hitting exactly where they needed to hit. The enemy cruiser's engines exploded, and it drifted helplessly in space. Across the battlefield, the same scene repeated itself. Human ships were faster, more accurate, more deadly. They did not attack wildly. They targeted specific systems, engines, weapons, communications. They were not trying to kill the Veth. They were trying to break them. On the crushing fist, Supreme Commander Drackle watched his fleet falling apart. He had lost 40 ships in the first 10 minutes. 60 in the first 20. His communications were destroyed. His orbital platforms were disabled. His fighters were dying by the hundreds. We need to retreat, his second officer said. Supreme Commander, we need to... No. Drackle slammed his 4 fists against his console. We do not retreat. The Veth do not retreat. But it did not matter what he wanted. His fleet was being destroyed around him. By the end of the first hour, the Veth had lost 140 ships. The humans had lost 3. Admiral Taiho watched the battle on his tactical display. Every destroyed Veth ship was marked with a red light. Every disabled ship was marked with yellow. The entire display was covered in red and yellow lights. Their flagship is trying to move, Commander Yuna reported. They are attempting to retreat to the inner system. Disable it, Taiho said. Do not destroy it. I want the Supreme Commander alive. The Iron Requiem moved forward, a giant among giants. Its weapons targeted the crushing fist, hitting its engines, its weapons, its shield generators. Within 3 minutes, the Veth flagship was drifting helplessly in space. Prepare a boarding team, Taiho ordered. Take the Supreme Commander prisoner. The Marines landed on the crushing fist 20 minutes later. They moved through the ship with brutal efficiency, securing every corridor, every room. The Veth crew surrendered quickly. They had seen what the human fleet could do. They did not want to die. Supreme Commander Drackle was found on his bridge, standing alone among the bodies of his dead officers. He had a weapon in one of his hands, but he did not use it. He simply stared at the human Marines with disbelief in his eyes. "How?" he whispered. "How did you do this?" The Marine leader, a sergeant named Kao Dongan, looked at him with cold eyes. "You attacked our hospital ship. You killed our doctors and nurses. You killed the refugees who trusted us to protect them. Did you really think we would let that go?" Drackle said nothing. There was nothing to say. The battle continued for 5 more days. It was not really a battle anymore. It was a systematic destruction of everything the Veth hegemony had built. Their fleet was destroyed. Their orbital platforms were disabled. Their military bases were captured. But the humans did not attack the cities. They did not kill civilians. They did not invade the planets. They simply stood in space, surrounding the Veth homeworld, waiting. Admiral Taiho looked at the planet below. Millions of Veth lived there. Families, children, innocent. People who had nothing to do with the attack on the healing. "Dawn." "Sir," said Commander Yuna, "the Veth government is requesting to negotiate." "Surrender." Taiho nodded slowly. "Tell them I will speak to them. But there will be no negotiation. Only terms." He turned and walked toward the communication center. The storm was over. Now it was time to deliver the message. The war, if it could be called a war, lasted 6 days. When it was over, 187 Veth warships had been destroyed or disabled. 30 orbital defense platforms were gone. The entire Veth military was broken, beyond repair. The humans had lost 12 ships and 423 lives. Admiral Shin Taiho stood in the main hall of the Veth government building, looking at the leaders of the hegemony. They sat at a long table, their forearms folded, their gray faces showing a mix of fear and shame. Supreme Commander Drackle sat among them, still wearing his military uniform. Though his rank symbols had been removed, the hall was silent. Outside, human Marines stood guard. In orbit, 600 warships waited. "I will speak clearly," Taiho said. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "We did not come here for conquest. We did not come here for territory or resources. We came here to deliver a message." The Veth leaders said nothing. They simply watched him with their large, dark eyes. "Your ship attacked the Healing Dawn, a medical vessel operating under protected status," Taiho continued. "That ship carried 340 crew members and 412 patients. Most of them were refugees, civilians who had fled the war between your people and the Relon. They came to us for help, and we promised to protect them." He paused, letting the words sink in. 752 people died in that attack. Doctors, nurses, children, people who had done nothing wrong. People who trusted us to keep them safe. One of the Veth leaders, an older female with silver markings on her face, spoke quietly. "We did not order that attack. The captain of that cruiser acted alone. He believed. I do not care what he believed," Taiho interrupted. His voice was still calm, but there was steel beneath it. "Your government defended his actions. Your government claimed the Healing Dawn was carrying weapons. Your government lied." The female leader looked down at the table. She did not argue. "Here are our terms," Taiho said. "They are not negotiable." He held up one finger. "First, the officers responsible for the attack will be surrendered to a joint tribunal. They will face justice for what they did." A second finger. "Second, the Veth hegemony will publicly acknowledge the protected status of all medical vessels under interstellar law. You will make this announcement to the entire galaxy. You will admit what you did." A third finger. "Third, a memorial will be built on this planet, on this continent, in this city. It will list every name of every person who died aboard the Healing Dawn, human and Relon alike. Your people will see that memorial every day. They will remember. The Veth leaders looked at each other. Drackle, the former Supreme Commander, stared at Taiho with hatred in his eyes. But he said nothing. There was nothing he could say. The female leader spoke again. And if we refuse? Taiho looked at her. We have 600 warships in orbit. Your military is destroyed. Your defenses are gone. You have no choice. You could destroy us completely, Drackle said suddenly. You have the power. Why do you not use it? It was the question Taiho had been waiting for. He turned to face the former commander directly. Because we are not like you, he said simply. We came here to deliver a message, not to commit genocide. We could have killed every Veth in this system. We could have burned your cities and destroyed your civilization. But we did not. He stepped closer to the table. Do you know why? Because that is what separates us from you. You saw our mercy as weakness. You thought that because we send hospital ships and help refugees, we would not fight back. You were wrong. He looked around the room, meeting every pair of Veth eyes. Our mercy is a choice. It is not weakness. It is strength. We choose to be kind. We choose to help others. We choose to heal instead of kill. But when someone forces our hand, when someone attacks those under our protection, we will show the galaxy exactly what we are capable of. The room was completely silent. This is your only warning, Taiho continued. Not just to you, but to every species watching. Every government. Every military commander. Every captain of every warship in the galaxy. If you attack our medical ships, if you harm those who trust us to protect them, we will come for you. And we will not stop until the message is understood. He turned and walked toward the door. At the entrance, he stopped and looked back one final time. You have 24 hours to accept our terms. Use the time wisely. 1 year later, Captain Park Gina stood before the completed memorial dot. It was a beautiful structure. A wall of white stone that stretched across a large plaza in the center of the Veth capital city. 752 names were carved into the stone, each one written in both human script and Veth symbols. At the top, in large letters, were the words, "They came to heal. They are remembered forever." Dr. Kang Do-yoon's name was near the top of the list. Nurse Lee Hannah's name was beside it. The Relan girl and her mother were there too, along with hundreds of others. Gina touched the stone gently. Her hands were shaking. It had been a difficult year. She still had nightmares. She still woke up crying in the middle of the night. But she was getting better. Slowly. Day by day. Representatives from 47 species had come to the memorial ceremony. Some had traveled for weeks to be here. Many of them had doubted humanity before. They had seen humans as soft, too concerned with ethics and compassion to be taken seriously as a power in the galaxy. None of them would make that mistake again. The Relan ambassador approached Gina after the ceremony. She was a small female with gentle eyes and a kind face. "Captain Park," she said, "I wanted to thank you personally. My people owe yours a great debt." Gina shook her head. "We only did what was right. That is exactly what I mean." The ambassador looked at the memorial. "You could have ignored what happened. You could have filed a complaint and waited for justice that would never come. Instead, you showed the galaxy what you truly are." "What is that?" The ambassador smiled sadly. "A species that will extend its hand in friendship to anyone who asks. But a species that should never be mistaken for weak." She bowed her head. "The Relan will never forget what humanity did for us. Never." That evening, Admiral Shin Taiho found Gina sitting alone on a bench near the memorial. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. The names on the white stone seemed to glow in the fading light. "How are you feeling?" he asked, sitting down beside her. Tired, she admitted. But better than before. They sat in silence for a while, watching the sunset. I have been thinking, Gina said finally, about what we do, what humans do. We send ships to help strangers. We risk our lives for people we have never met. And when things go wrong, we fight back with everything we have. She looked at the memorial. It seems like a contradiction. Healers and warriors. Mercy and vengeance. Taiho nodded slowly. It does seem that way. But I think it makes sense. How? Because both come from the same place. He gestured toward the names on the wall. We cared about those people. We cared enough to send a hospital ship into a war zone. We cared enough to treat refugees from a species we had never met. And when they were killed, we cared enough to make sure it never happened again. He turned to look at her. That is what defines us, Captain. Not our weapons or our technology or our ships. Our capacity to care. For the living. For the dead. For strangers who come to us for help. Gina thought about his words for a long time. She thought about Dr. Kang and Nurse Hannah. She thought about the Roland girl with the burns and her mother. She thought about all the patients she had tried to save. And all the ones she had lost. And for the first time in a year, she felt something other than pain. She felt hope. Will you ever send another hospital ship out there? She asked. Tae-ho smiled. We already have. 3 of them. They are operating in the Outer Rim right now, treating refugees from a dozen different species. And if someone attacks them, then we will do what we did here. We will show the galaxy that our mercy is a choice. And choices can be changed. Gina nodded slowly. She stood up and looked at the memorial one last time. The names were fading into shadow as the sun disappeared below the horizon, but she knew they would be there in the morning. They would always be there. Thank you, Admiral, she said. For everything. Taiho stood beside her. Thank you, Captain. For surviving. For being here. For reminding us why we fight. They walked away together, leaving the memorial behind. And across the galaxy. Every species that had watched the events of the past year remembered a simple truth. Humanity would offer its hand in peace to anyone who asked. They would heal the sick, shelter the desperate, and protect the innocent, but attack them, and they would remind the universe why Earth's children had survived the stars. The healing dawn was gone, but its legacy would live forever.